Neglectful dad and evil stepmom tried to kick me out of my own house to give it to my spoiled pregnant stepsister because her boyfriend left her and she is nothing. I, M34, have a miserly, self-centered, and usually absent dad, M62, who recently found out how much I earn. Shockingly, he has decided to kick me out of my own house, all in the name of family. Amanda, F29, my stepsister, and daddy's little gem, who apparently does nothing wrong, has magically gotten pregnant. With her very self-reliant goals of unstable jobs and running an online page, she has trouble getting herself a place to stay. Now daddy wants to fix everything, and I'm the fix. Unfortunately, I've got to give up my house and my hard-earned cash to this woman because she made all the wrong choices. I'm the guy my dad openly rejected as a responsibility multiple times. But ever since he found out about my new house, my job, and surprisingly my income as well, he's gotten pretty touchy about how we're the same blood. While I'm not exactly excited about him frequently reminding me who my father is, he's also aiming to strengthen the bonds I have with his wife and her daughter. Clara, she's my dad's wife too, but I was cast away far too early to make any kind of connection with the woman. Glad I didn't because I would have been so disappointed. Before you all start, I just want to remind you, I'm only here to vent my emotions, okay? I've got opinions, thoughts, and feelings to write out. They might not sound okay to you, and you may disagree, but I'm just letting you know anyway, because frankly, I don't have anyone else to tell. Now let's introduce Amanda, short for Amanda Lynn, who's my half-sister. She's about 5 years younger than me, and she's making her dad proud, literally. Dad's delusional, because this woman's out there doing nothing but chasing unstable work, meeting random men, running a flop online page, and my father calls her his pride. Yep, you read that right. I'm guessing he doesn't know the whole story. Who's going to tell him? I'm not very conservative, but I try to focus on my morals and career. I date women when I find the time and try to get to know them better. Sometimes there's a spark, but other factors come into play, like long distance or availability. Other times, there's no understanding at all. I try not to sleep with random people. I think I should wait for the right woman. Having a high body count grosses me out. I don't know why some guys show it off like a medal. Disgusting. Anyway, this is the principle I apply to my own life. My stepsister is sadly the opposite. She's probably lost count of her partners by now. That alone bothers me. But there's also the fact that it's extremely dangerous. Some guys like to push boundaries, and I don't know how anyone thinks it's okay to live like that. She also uploads inappropriate photos and videos of herself online to make money, but she doesn't get much success there. She probably doesn't know how to bring in traffic. For whatever reason, it's a flop. How do I know? Here's an embarrassing story. My friend told me about it. He said Amanda texted him once after they met for a drink and asked him if he wanted to have fun. Hearing the story, I was already upset because the guy went out with my sister, but he said it was before he knew she was my sister. I don't know if he was telling the truth, but he said she even sent him the link to her page, and he showed it to me. She's always broke and asking dad for money, so I think it isn't working too well for her. I couldn't bring myself to ask her about it directly, and I never told dad either. Another time, I saw her taking a call and then sitting in the car with an older man. He gave her flowers, and they drove off. She would sneak back into the house through the window at odd hours. I noticed this when I used to come home from college for the holidays. I don't know if she's still at it, but I don't want to be a part of any of it. I have a respected position where I work, and I'm proud of it. Finally, I haven't lived much with the new family since my dad was eager enough to send me away any chance he got. But I've seen Amanda close enough to say that she takes after her mother, Clara, F58. Clara thought she was quite the icon in her prime. She used to be a flight attendant and was fairly attractive to men like my dad. Now, she's a typical arrogant woman, heavily made up with claw-like nails longer than her lipstick. She manages a neighborhood daycare, which is odd. Parents leaving their kids with Edward Scissorhands like that. She might poke out a child's eye with those nails. Anyway, she's just as sharp as her nails. She has an opinion about everything and loves to cause problems in other people's lives. Her voice is unpleasant, and with all the cosmetic work she's had done, she's as genuine as fake leather. She influences dad for the worst. I believe she was the major reason my dad didn't think twice before sending me away to boarding school when I was 8, because she didn't want to raise a kid that wasn't her own. Now, let me tell you about my dad. He's kind of the main problem in all of this. He thinks whatever he does in life is justified, even when it's far, far from it. He says he regrets having me because I'm nothing like him. Thank God for that. My mom was a strong woman. She knew her priorities well and took good care of my dad, but they fell apart. She used to tell me dad wasn't a bad person, just a different person. And no matter what happens, he's always going to be my dad, and I should never forget that. She was a good soul. She didn't want to poison my thoughts against him. I'm sure he was as unbearable to her as he is today. They separated and divorced a few months later. I was 4 years old. 2 months after the divorce, my dad married Clara. They had Amanda when I turned 5. Then my mom died in a car crash. I can't forget it. She was on her way to pick me up from school. She had always been on time, but just once she was 10 minutes late. To me, it felt like an hour, but it was only 10 minutes. She got hit at an intersection by a drunk driver. He survived. She didn't. He got a DUI a few years later. I was left alone forever. I waited at school and it took them 2 hours to come get me. I was lied to and confused since my dad had come. I'll never forget his annoyance when he looked at stone-faced Clara and asked what they should do about me. She said, "Your kid, your problem." Exactly, Dad. Now you can't come and tell me I have to take care of your spoiled kid. I have a stable job now and manage a few small businesses on the side. I've worked really hard since I was 15 and have been earning ever since. After boarding school, I went to college, only visited during holidays, so I've been on my own since I was 8. I put in a lot of effort to get where I am, and I recently bought a house. It's a nice little place, much better than the shared apartment I had with my friends. It was a life goal I thought I'd never achieve. I only just moved in last month. I may not like my family much, but basic decency meant involving them in a moment this big. So I invited them to the housewarming too. My dad's reaction was sad to watch. He looked envious, honestly a little annoyed, as he asked about the furniture, the architect, and the interior design. I told him what I thought was enough, and he responded with taunts like, "I wouldn't know. You never bothered telling me," trying to gain attention and making our weak relationship obvious in front of friends, colleagues, even my boss. A week passed, and I got a call from him. I was at work, busy managing a complex project. He said he wanted to meet since it was urgent. I agreed. I went home and saw a very angry Clara and swollen, red-eyed Amanda giving me side-eye from the living room. Dad was in the kitchen, taking out bottles of beer from the fridge. He offered me one, and I politely declined. Worried about what he'd say, I asked him what he wanted. He raised his brows and responded with another question. "Have you finally started giving a damn about us?" I frowned, confused, because I didn't understand what he was getting at. He asked me to join Amanda and Clara in the living room. I nodded and went over to a couch across from them and sat down. Amanda folded her arms. Clara rolled her eyes. Dad walked in and sat facing me. He put his beer bottle on the coffee table and leaned back. Then he asked me if I was blind. There was a pause. Confusion on my end, anger on theirs. Before I could respond, he added that either I was blind or I chose not to see things that needed to be seen. He said I'd probably gotten proud ever since I got a house and refused to look at the people who actually mean something to me. I sighed and asked him what he meant, requesting he be clearer. He scoffed sarcastically and told me I was ignoring the serious situation in the room. He said I chose not to see that the family was in jeopardy and decided not to offer any sort of help. Obviously, I asked him what jeopardy he was talking about. He looked over at Amanda, who rolled her eyes and announced that she's pregnant. Like any normal person, I wanted to congratulate her, but before I could, she started crying. Clara hugged her and told me I should care enough to ask what's going on at home. Dad said Amanda just found out she's pregnant, and the boyfriend responsible has broken up with her because of it. Clara added that Amanda has decided to keep the baby, and that's what we should base further decisions on. All I could manage to say was, "Can she afford it?" I got a death stare from both Amanda and Clara. Honestly, I meant well. In my head, I had already assumed they wanted me to chip in with money to help her out, and I was genuinely ready to do that. But then Dad stood up, walked over to my side, and sat down next to me. He said that was exactly why he had called me. He told me he was a good father to his daughter, and maybe my mother hadn't taught me how to be a good brother, but that brothers should give everything for the comfort of their sisters. Excuse me? I know my financial support might be needed, but I'm not giving up my entire life for her. I sighed and asked what he wanted me to do. He smiled, patted my back, and said, "That's my good boy." I forced a fake smile, which immediately faded when Dad spoke his next words. "You're giving your house to Amanda." "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are," he said. I immediately refused. Dad frowned and asked me why not. I told him that I could help out with some cash, but the house was mine. I could lend her a room rent-free until she could manage to pay for it. Dad stood from his seat and shouted, "Nonsense!" It made perfect sense to me, but he insisted I not only give Amanda the house, but also move out and buy another one for myself. I argued that Amanda couldn't even afford to pay the bills or manage the house while being unemployed and pregnant. Dad told me those would also be my responsibilities. Excuse me? Absolutely not. I was furious, but I had to remain respectful. I got to my feet and told him that was not possible, and that I would now be leaving. Then I left. But he didn't stop there. A week later, he showed up at my house while I was at work. I don't know how he got inside or where he got the keys, but when I came home, I saw men moving boxes outside. Boxes full of my things. I hurried inside, asking them what they were doing. They told me the house owner had ordered them to throw the stuff out. I told them I was the owner of the house and that they needed to put my belongings back inside and leave immediately. I completely lost my cool. This was the last thing I ever expected to come home to. When I walked inside, I found Dad and Amanda still there, demanding I do what brothers should do. I told them to leave, but they didn't listen, so I told them I would call the cops. That's when they finally left, cursing me and bad-mouthing me on their way out. Now, I know this is a lot to read, but it was so much worse in person. A week has passed, and I kind of feel bad about it, which is why I'm posting here. Was I wrong? I feel like they need me, and I shouldn't cut them off like this, but I also feel there are limits to what I should do for them. It angers me how disconnected and unbothered they were about me as I grew up, but now they expect me to lay down my life for them. A bit much, don't you think? Let me know. I can't even involve my friends in this. You all are all I have right now. Update. Hey everyone, I hope you're all well. It's been a week since I posted, and honestly, I didn't expect it to get the attention it got. I read the comments as they came, and some made me question a lot of things, but soon enough, I decided not to cut my family off entirely. This was because I received a call from Amanda. She told me she wanted to meet, and I accepted. She asked to meet at my house since she wanted to tell me a few things, but I was still recovering from the scene from last time, so I insisted we meet somewhere else. We went to a coffee shop. She was pretty uneasy at first. Normally, she's arrogant and rude, but this time she seemed different. We sat in the corner, and she told me she'd recently been broken up with. I responded that I already had an idea, since Dad said the guy who got her pregnant had left her. She shook her head and said that's only what Dad thinks. I asked her what really happened, and she told me Dad thinks her boyfriend left because he had commitment issues. But in reality, she was the one with the commitment issues. Shocking, right? She said she really cared for this guy, but he'd found out a few things about her just days before she broke the pregnancy news to him. When they met, he wanted to confront her about those things, but she spoke first, which enraged him further. He got pretty crazy in the moment and even put a hole in the wall. She said he scared her, then told her he was breaking up with her, and left without hearing her response. She's been trying to call him constantly, but he won't respond. He only texted her back once, saying she needed to get rid of the baby first, and then let him know. Only then would he talk to her. Now, I know Amanda isn't a saint, but I don't like this guy at all. I asked her what those things were that he'd found out. She said it would be weird to tell her brother about it. I figured she was probably referring to her online activity and shady jobs. I shrugged and said it was fine if she didn't want to tell me. Before I could ask what she really wanted to meet me for, she drew in a deep breath and told me she had been involved in some questionable things. I was worried. I didn't want to hear confirmation of my suspicions. But I listened. She said she had once wanted to paint and become an artist, but Clara told her it wouldn't bring her a good life or enough money. Amanda was told she needed to find herself a man as soon as possible. Soon enough, she started getting attention from older men, which grossed her out at first. But when she told Clara about it, Clara told her it was actually a good thing. According to Clara, older men knew what to do with money, and they were the ones making any real income. Amanda was only 19 at the time. Clara told her that college wouldn't give her the comfortable life she wanted, but her youth would. Amanda decided she wanted to become a model. She tried, went to many agencies, but none seemed interested. Then she met a man in his 40s who said he could get her a gig. He took her to parties, bought her expensive clothes and jewelry for events, and she was happy until she was told about her first gig. It turned out she was expected to spend time with a man in exchange for a modeling opportunity. She thought it would just be dinner, but it turned into more. She did get a small modeling gig for a brand, but that was it. A few more men took advantage while promising opportunities, but none came through. Eventually, she realized the man investing in her was actually exploiting her. He was profiting off her, and she was afraid to confront him because she thought he might hurt her. So she told him she didn't want to pursue modeling anymore and would settle for minimum wage jobs. Thankfully, he let her go. She then tried waiting tables at bars, but it was tough for her. That's what real hard-earned cash is, Amanda. Anyway, she also said Clara would humiliate her for choosing those jobs. Clara told her women should only shine and smile like showpieces and that they needed to be taken care of. So Amanda started going out with men only for dinner, but charging for it. She said many lonely men just wanted conversation, but even that ended up with stalkers and obsessive people who thought they were owed more. She decided that trying to connect emotionally was more problematic than casual arrangements. She later tried running an online page. She wasn't good at handling the camera, editing, or being social, so it didn't work out either. Then she met her boyfriend, who was an ex-coworker at a cafe. They met again, and she liked him, but he was clingy and a little possessive. He didn't trust her much, and he had reason to doubt because she was still running her page and involved in shady side jobs without his knowledge. Eventually, she quit all of it, and her boyfriend started taking care of her with the little money he made. She was okay with it, but Clara wasn't. Then she got pregnant, and her boyfriend found out everything. She admitted she has a few men who could be potential fathers. They all give her money to support her and the baby. One of them had even proposed to her, but she knows they're only helping because each one thinks he's the only one. It's ridiculous. She said she told me all this because she couldn't tell Dad. He thinks she's only been modeling and that she had one boyfriend who left her. Clara knows most of the truth and suggests Amanda marry the man who proposed, letting him think he's the father. But Amanda doesn't know what to tell Dad, and she doesn't want to marry a man she doesn't love. I asked her what she wanted me to help with. She said some financial input would be fine, and she wanted me to make up with Dad. She suggested I agree to what Dad was asking and move out for some time, then come back later when things weren't so heated. How's that a solution? I respectfully declined her offer and told her I could only contribute some money, but I wasn't okay with moving out of my own house. She then told me I was selfish for thinking like that she had exposed her whole life to me and I didn't even have the decency to help her out. She went further, saying Dad was right about me and that I deserved to have been sent to an orphanage instead of being taken in when I needed a place to live. She got up and stomped away. I think my response wasn't too extreme. But is it selfish, really? What do you think of her side of the story? Does it justify her demands? Should I trust her? I feel like she was telling the truth, but does that mean I should do what she's asking for? Let me know, y'all. Update. This thing's been weighing on my mind. Another week has passed and a few things happened, so I thought I'd update you. Thanks again for the support on my last post. It's such a relief to feel heard. So, after I met Amanda, I got a call from Dad. He wanted to meet me at a bar and settle a few things. Curious, I agreed. We sat at the counter, and he said he knew how much I was earning. I asked why it mattered, and he said he knew I could afford to buy another house in a few years. I shrugged and told him I already had a house, and this discussion needed to end. He insisted that since I didn't have a family yet, and because it's harder for women to raise a child alone, Amanda's baby needed a safe space to call home. I reminded Dad that Amanda had been living with them long enough, and nothing seemed to be a problem. A little baby wouldn't change that. I also asked what she would do living alone in a whole house while pregnant. I said she needed to be surrounded by people so she could be cared for. That's when Dad shocked me again. He said he and Clara would move in with Amanda, in my house. I couldn't believe my ears. Before I could react, the bartender let out a sarcastic chuckle. Dad took offense and asked him what was so funny. Amanda, the bartender replied. She uses everyone and then throws them away. Dad asked if he knew who he was talking about. The man nodded and said he was her boyfriend. My eyes widened. So this was the guy. Dad clenched his fists and sternly asked why the man thought it was okay to start a family he couldn't support. The man raised his hands and said he wasn't responsible for the family in question, and that he had no interest in raising a child that wasn't his. Dad pressed him to explain. The man smiled and said he'd had a vasectomy last year because he didn't want children. Yet Amanda was still pregnant. He also said he caught her driving off with different men after lying about where she was going. Then he discovered her online activity. He hadn't wanted to believe it, but when Amanda finally told him about the baby, that was the last straw. Since he couldn't have kids, it confirmed his suspicions. He told Amanda she had been dishonest all along, and she admitted it. I watched Dad's face shift from anger to shock to disappointment, while my ears stayed locked on the man's words. He shrugged and said he owed Amanda nothing. Rather, she owed him honesty, time, and respect. He added that no father would be proud of a child like that. Dad tightened his lips, got up from the stool without a word, and walked away. Later that evening, he texted me, saying he had to pick Clara up from her yoga class. I don't know what went on after that, but the very next day, Amanda showed up at my door, crying. She told me I had ruined everything. I pulled her inside to avoid a scene and calmed her down, telling her I hadn't told Dad anything. It was her boyfriend, the bartender, who had said it all. She told me Dad had told her to quit everything and stay home. He said he was disgusted and never thought she would resort to such choices. He told her to change her ways and find a good man. Then he added that her chances of finding one were slim. I listened and hugged her. She said she was sorry for thinking it was me who told Dad, because Dad had just come home from meeting me when he confronted her. I forgave her, and she went back home. While she was ranting, she mentioned Clara had been unusually quiet when Dad was talking about good women and loyalty. Like she couldn't say anything. Amanda hinted that Clara had secrets of her own. I asked what she meant, and she said Clara couldn't really speak up since she was busy with yoga. That word stuck with me. What do you all think really happened? Is Amanda still going to be Dad's pride? No one's contacted me since. I'll see what happens and let you know. Update. Just 2 days later, I'm back. For those asking, Amanda's ex's real name doesn't matter. Let's just call him Bob. The day before yesterday, I went to meet Dad. I told him I had decided on a few things. I said I wanted to help raise Amanda's baby, and I was ready to lend her a room. I'd be okay paying for diapers and essentials, but she needed to get a job as soon as possible. Dad said that would mean no one would be home with the baby, so I suggested she try freelancing or working from home. This time, Dad wasn't his usual rude self. He paused, sighed, and sat down on the couch. He told me he thought I hated him. He was right, but I asked him why he thought that. He said it was because Mom hated him too. I quickly told him that wasn't true. She always told me Dad loved me and cared about me. I said the only reason I was disappointed was because of how wrong my perception of him had been. Mom told me one thing, but what I felt from Dad was total neglect and lack of care. He rubbed his eyes and admitted he hated himself for a lot of things. He said he liked Mom, but they hadn't known each other long enough to know if they were really compatible. He sighed and said he got her pregnant, and that's why he married her. She was a good wife to him, but he never felt the spark. And then he met Clara. When he said that, I felt my insides twist. I couldn't move. I didn't know any of this. Dad told me Clara had sparked something in him he never knew he had. He was so happy with her, and before he knew it, he caught feelings. Before he could navigate right and wrong, Clara got pregnant too. He said he told her it was wrong, but it was too late. She was already expecting. He told her to wait because he wanted to tell Mom first. But Clara, feeling insecure, went to our house and told Mom everything. Mom confronted Dad, and he admitted it. It was a very ugly episode because Mom was deeply hurt, but even then, she was polite and asked Dad for a divorce. So yes, my parents divorced because Dad had an affair with my stepmom and got her pregnant. Dad paused and looked at me. He said he had spent a year with Clara after Mom died, and then he had to bring me home. Clara hated everything about it. She was insecure that Dad might prioritize me over their baby, so he sent me away to boarding school 3 years later. After that, I never had to stay home long enough to cause Clara any discomfort. Love makes you do stupid things, he said. I wanted to punch this man in the face, but I controlled myself. Then I turned around and saw Clara standing in the doorway, water bottle in hand. She said she was just leaving for yoga class. She put the bottle on the table, went into the kitchen, and before I could even process it, she was heading back out the door. I was numb, but I followed her. I picked up her bottle to return it. But by the time I got outside, she was already in her car and driving away. I needed to clear my mind, so I quietly got in my own car and drove after her. She parked outside a yoga club, got out, looked around nervously, and then walked into an alley. She glanced around again before getting into another car. She hugged and kissed the driver, and they drove off. I clenched my jaw, parked, and went inside the yoga club. I asked the staff if Clara had checked in. They refused to give personal information. I explained I was worried and insisted on at least knowing if she was there. They told me they had no client by that name. I went back to my car and waited. When the other car returned, I started recording video. A man got out, opened Clara's door, hugged and kissed her, then playfully tapped her as she walked joyfully toward the parking lot. So much for yoga, Clara. I left before she could notice me. So now my dad, who cheated on my mom, was being cheated on himself. Karma. Dad called me a few times, but I didn't pick up. All I wanted to do was confront Clara directly. Update. Hey everyone, this is probably going to be my last update. I know it's a week late and you expected it sooner, but so much happened. First, I finally gathered the courage to confront Clara. I went when Dad wasn't home and Amanda was asleep. I asked Clara if she had yoga class that day. She said she had it every day, even Sundays. She was in the kitchen cooking pasta. I asked her who her instructor was. She gave me a random name. I asked if that was a man. She laughed and said no. Why would I take lessons from a man? I told her it was strange since the club she went to didn't even have female instructors. She tried to insist I was mistaken, but her voice cracked and she stopped stirring the pasta sauce. I told her I had joined the club the day before, and that's what they told me. She asked how I knew which club she went to. I told her I had followed her last time. She dropped a spoon. I picked it up and looked at her. What are you getting at? She asked. So I told her what I had seen. She denied it, of course. I said I saw it with my own eyes. She shrugged and said Dad would never believe me. I pulled out my phone, played the video, and told her he'd believe his own eyes. She froze in shock. After a moment, her expression calmed and she went back to cooking. She said it didn't matter anymore. She was already planning to file for divorce. My eyes widened. This woman was despicable. Granted, Dad wasn't innocent either, but Clara was a snake. She told me the man she met at the club was her lover of 3 years. She said they had fallen in love long ago, but at the time he was married to another woman whose father had hired him into the family business. A lot was at stake. Clara and her lover agreed he would keep his marriage, settle his finances, and later divorce his wife to be with her. But then Clara got pregnant. Desperate to secure support, she decided to stay with Dad instead. They had been seeing each other off and on, but once she had Amanda, she chose Dad and forced the situation. Now her lover was a widower and owned a company, so Clara said she was good to go. She told me, "Women need to do what they can," and smiled. But her smile froze as she looked past me. I turned around and saw Dad in the doorway, fists clenched, eyes red, shaking with anger. What happened next was chaos. Dad woke Amanda up and brought her into the kitchen. He asked her who her real father was. Amanda looked at Clara and shook her head. She said she didn't care about blood. She had always known Dad as her father. Dad ran his fingers through his hair and paced the floor. Within 2 days, Clara and Amanda were told to leave his house. The divorce process started. They are now staying at a shelter. Dad asked me to find him a therapist, and he has apologized countless times. I forgive him each time. As for Clara, her lover didn't take her in. He denies having any contact with her. I have the proof, and Clara has begged me for it. She's even asked me to think of Amanda and her pregnancy. But what can I say? Clara, your kid, your problem. So, what do you think? Should I delete the video or hand it over? Thanks for being here with me through all of this, for the suggestions and the support. It means a lot.